Evening, guys. Here we are live from the kitchen. We're going to continue tonight the reading on Hermus B Duyrea. It's going to be really interesting tonight because we're going to get a lot of clarification with this paragraph we're going to read tonight. At the beginning of this, I spoke of a conversation I'd had with a young follower of mine, a guy named Jesse. And he had mentioned the first video on the Madigan Claret strand. And in the first paragraph of the first video, talk about the hen side. And talks about the hen and where she come from and all that. Well, Gus Fristroff makes a statement in the very first sentence about in 1909 about a Durey white hackle hen, and there's no white hackle in the Durey, so everybody, including myself, was curious to why he said white hackle, and I come to the assumption that it was because of the color, and which an assumption and fact's two different things. But tonight, it becomes a fact, because in this paragraph, I have to admit to you guys, I tried to do this video last weekend, and I was had a cold, and I was coughing a lot, and so I read this paragraph. And I did the video, I just didn't post it because it was so bad. The old cold had me down. But anyway, we're going to get clarification on this. We'll do a quick recap. We know that Michael Kearney worked for Hermus B Duyrea. He was his feeder. And during this time period that this article came from, Michael Kearney had fed 17 of the last 19 mains that Durey had fought. And of course they won them all because Durey only lost one man in his life. And also in this paragraph we're going to talk, it's going to come to the time period that the first Durey fowl were fought in a long hill. And it's really interesting, and we're going to get the proof on you're going to get the proof on the claret fowl not having any white hackle in it. It's straight Durey fowl. Of course, we know it had a little Madigan added some Mansell Pile and a touch of Gilmer Gray in them. Okay, that being said, that comes from the claret videos, if you go back and look at those. But we're going to find exactly, we know what this hen is. We're going to get a little history on her, and she was an amazing hen. So without further ado, we're going to start it off right here. And we're going to be talking about where this hen traveled, and she's the hen that ended up in Madigan's hands to start the Claret family. So without further ado, let's jump into this here, because tonight it brings it all together. Just like I've said it always would. All these good chickens in the United States, I've always said, they all come from one or two men or both. And this is bringing it all together. And once you look at the big picture here, it's going to show you got Kearney, which a lot of families was made from the Kearney fowl. Of course, a lot of families was made from the Durey fowl. So neither one of them, Kearney goes without a doubt. Before we ever get into it, Michael Kearney worked for Durey. He paid him $1,500 a year, which was a whole lot of money back then. He had him overseeing his farm here or his chickens here in the United States while he was in France. And another man named Madden's hands that he had left the chickens with, but he was paying Kearney and his son to take care of the chickens and set up the mains and feed them, and all the things that requires. So you know that these are the winningest fowl in the history of the world. There's no reason that anyone would want any other fowl besides these. So that's going to go ahead and tell you right there, the Kearney fowl is the Durey fowl. Hence, Harrisford brown red, Harrisford yellow birchin, because Durey never made an outcross. So that discredits white hackle to the Durey, to the Claret, and the Madigan, and it becomes a fact to the Madigan Clarets. Now, the Madigan Pickets contained a little bit of white hackle, but not the Madigan Clarets. Okay, without further ado, let's jump right in, guys. In the same year, 1901, Mr. Durey sent a 14-time winning cock. His mother and three daughters, and three of her daughters, to R.T. Honorable, the Earl of Clonmel of Kildare, Ireland, with the intentions of fighting some international mains with their offspring. When the Lord Clone Mill closed the series of 3 mains, 17 cocks each, for $50,000 and 10,000 guineas on the odd main, with the Lord of Septon and Captain Jones to be fought on the 27th of March 1905, the second to be fought in April of 1906, and the third to be fought in May of 1907. You know, this is a ton of money. I mean, we're talking about the beginning of the 1900s, and they're talking about $50,000 per main plus these 10,000 guineas, which was the type of money over there. You're talking about a ton of money. And so Durey sends this hen and her son, a 14-time winning cock, her son, and 3 of his sisters over there to be bred for these mains, and they do. And they set the mains. So here's where it gets really interesting. Clone Mill never thought asking his opponents to fight in the blunt 1 1/4 spurs, as they were unknown in England. So when Clone Mill notified that he had closed the mains to be fought in the fair long silver spurs, Durey advised him that his cocks were not suited for the long spurs and asked to be released from his agreement to join in the mains. This ended their friendship. Clone Mill not only fought the Septons, but the Gilmans, the Mansells, the Clarks in the long silver and steel spurs, and defeated O'Connell, who had a financial interest with the Lord Clone Mill. From 1905 to 1913, Mr. O'Connell made 11 trips to fight mains against the leading cockers and nobility in England, Ireland, France, and Spain, and defeated 12 of them with the American Durey cocks, losing none. But one main ended in a draw. So they got introduced. Durey advised against it. Durey didn't want no part of it. He had always fought these cocks in a blunt 1 1/4 inch spur. Clone Mill took it upon himself to fight them to enter the mains in this long hill. The first long hills that, according to history, that the Durey cocks was ever fought in. Okay? It ended Durey and his friendship. Durey reminds me kind of a lot of the way I think. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. He never added an outcross. He never added fresh blood. This kind of thing. People that know me, and even you guys listen that follow me, you know I don't believe in that kind of thing. I'm kind of the same way along those lines. But these cocks did outstanding. I mean, they destroyed the world in the long hills, but they were destroying the world in short hills too. So that goes back to what I've always said. A good cutting cock's going to cut with anything. He'll cut with a 16-penny nail. He'll cut with his natural spurs. Good cutting roosters are going to cut regardless. They ain't cutting something you did. And these cocks destroyed the world in the long hills. For O'Connell, not Durey, because Durey was against it. And it cost Durey his friendship with this Earl Earl from Ireland over here, this Earl of Septon. And that's how strongly Durey felt about it. But the Earl of Septon had fought the cocks anyway. And he won. And the cocks fought well, which they should have. Good cocks. Good cocks will win in multiple people's hands. That's a measure of how deep a family is. When they can go from 1, 2, 3, 4 different guys, different type feeders, different environments, so forth and so forth, then you got a really deep, good family of chickens, because they're going through different things with different people. We all know that. Nobody's the same. No cooks are the same 2 cooks in the kitchen. Okay, so anyway, these are really great cocks. They've done really well, and in this long spur, and you know, I mean, really well is an understatement. I can't say. I mean, they won 12 mains straight throughout the world. He floated them throughout the world and eat people up in these long spurs. Okay, we'll carry on. In 1905, Mr. O'Connell brought back to America from Ireland. Listen real closely. In 1905, Mr. O'Connell brought back to America from Ireland the hailstone spangled birchen hen. Bam! That Mr. Hermus B Duyrea of New York and Red Bank, New Jersey had presented to the Earl of Clonmel in 1901 and her son, which had won 14 battles in the hands of Michael Kearney. Clonmel fought the son in the first 3 mains against the Earl of Sefton, and the same week fought him in a 16-cock Welsh main, in which the winner must defeat 4 opponents, which he did. Now, we've heard this before. We heard this in the Madigan reading on the Clarets. This is the same hen. It's fixing to prove it here in a minute. We ain't quite got there yet. But let's just wrap our hands around this son and how powerful this hen's genetics was. This son won 14 mains before he went to Ireland. 14 fights, excuse me. He went to Ireland. He was fought 5 more times. In 2 weeks, he fought him in a main, one of the mains. Then he fought him in a Welsh main, where he had to whoop 4 roosters in the same day, which he did. This is the son that was bred back to his mama and his sisters. This is the way Durey bred fowl. He didn't add fresh blood. He didn't go, oh, I got this 5-time winner over here. I'm going to go get a damn roundhead hen or a sweater hen and breed them. No, he brought him back to his mom and his sisters. He wants to keep that gene pool right there, nice and tight, because it's working. They're monsters. Okay, now let's talk about it a little bit. Let's go a little deeper. Now, he's brought this hen back home now. Mr. O'Connell brought this hen back from Ireland to Mr. Durey. She has went from Mr. Durey to Ireland, bred chickens there that won all these mains. Now she's coming back. She's back to Mr. Durey. She's back in the man who bred her, who made her hands. Let's go on. The sons bred from his mother and 3 sisters won 2 out of 3 17-cock mains against the Earl of Sefton. 1 main ended in a draw. So they won 2, they drawed 1. So, bad boys. Bad boys. The stakes were $10,000 guineas and $50,000 on the odd on the main. That's huge money. That's more money than a lot of whole cities' banks had back then. You know, unbelievable money. So they destroyed the world with these roosters. Out of this cock and his mama and this cock and his sister, which the cock was, you know, the son of the hailstone yellow birchen hen. Hailstone yellow birchen hen. This is the same hen. She's back now in Durey's hands. Here we go. Mr. O'Connell brought home the old hailstone hen and her son, which is now a 19-time winner. The hen, which Mr. O'Connell gave to John H. Madigan in 1909, was bred from that pair. So the hen that he gave to him was bred out of that pair. It was a line-bred hen out of this cock and his mama. This Durey hen was the mother of the Claret Strand. the mother of the claret strand. This is the same hen that Gus Fristroff, in his first sentence on the Madigan claret strand, which he was Mr. Madigan's farm manager and feeder. He was there at the time. This is the hen he speaks of in his first sentence of the first paragraph of the clarets that started it. It's documented there and it's documented here. And the only difference is he refers to the color of the hen in the other reading. Back then, if there was a spangled chicken, they called them a white hackle color or a hailstone. The color had nothing to do with the breeding. There was no white hackle in the clarets. There was no white hackle in the Dureys, of course. It's right here in front of us. Harrisford brown red, Harrisford yellow birchin. There's no white hackle in the Kearney fowl. You would have to be totally retarded to be Mr. Hermus B Duyrea feeder and over his farm in America with the winningest fowl in the world that is destroying the whole world and breed anything but the Duyrea fowl because you have got the cream of the crop. And Mr. Duyrea would have gave them to him. You know he would have. You know he would have because you would have and I would have. Because if you trust him with your farm while you're in another country for years and your money, because you backing them roosters with your money, you trust him with everything you've got, but you can't trust him to take a pair to the house? Think about that. The Kearney fowl is the Durey fowl, like I've always said. It's right here. It's in front of you. It's no longer an assumption. It is a fact. Now, a lot of you old wild huckle boys out there, you going, I don't want to hear this because that ain't what I've been told. Well, there's a difference in what you've been told and what's right here and printed on the ink. I'll say it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. There's never been anything containing true white hackle blood that could have toted the ass feather of one of these Durey cocks or one of them Kearney cocks. I knew they wasn't no kin because for 54 years I've been watching, and there's a big difference in a Kearney and a Durey and a Madigan than they are a white hackle. And you could not have bred all the good chickens, like the leapers that come from the Kearney fowl. All the others, I can go on all day long. The hatch, which come from the Durey fowl, or the Kearney fowl. And I think it was the Kearney that the hatch come from. There's no way that they could have contained white hackle fowl in them because genetics just ain't there for white hackles. I'm sorry. They're not. But the genetics are there for the Durey, because the Durey never was an outcross anyway. It was bred so intensely, inbred and line bred for so many years, there's no way. You got nothing but good out of them chickens. That's what everybody used. Well, now it's right here in front of us. It's right here in front of us. I just read it to you. And we're going to go on. We're going to end that right there because I'm going to run out of time. And I love this paragraph here. I love it because it makes a lot of my assumptions, facts, well, just about all of them. And it's going to get even better than that. I hope don't break nobody's hearts. Don't do these to break your hearts. Do these to enlighten you and broaden your knowledge. A couple of big shout outs. A lot of guys I've talked to this week. Some guys started calling me on the phone, had some good phone conversations. My young buddy Jesse, which was the guy who mentioned to me about that first sentence in that first paragraph on the and he called me on the phone and asked me about it. He said that was a white ugly hen. I said, yeah, I know. I got to find out why. I'm pretty sure it was because he was talking about the color. Well, we found out why, Jesse, and it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And so, man, it's a good thing. Life is good. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. God bless you. Till next time. Thank you.